Oh, and here's two more stars from the past. This one had its own feature video, and that one had a lesser role. I don't think this sand goes all the way through. They look like clouds, and by clouds I mean cloudy bits of sand that is still visible. That name is trademarked, by the way, so don't ever use cloud without my permission. Sometimes when color bars come together, bad things happen. It's like an old girlfriend of mine. We got together, bad things happened. And I don't mean the good type of bad things either. Everybody who watches this video, if you see a face, you need to comment about it and let me know. If you see Alf, A-L-F, if you're old enough to know, well, God bless you. Don't cut me. About 3 months ago, I received an email with some amazing photos of opal from a man I'll call Harry. Harry's father, Angelo, had been an opal miner in Coober Pedy for years and finally left the field in the late 1990s. He took with him this fabulous 1 kilogram parcel of spectacular opal. That's 5,000 carats. You may not know it, but opal miners often save good opal for hard times or for retirement, which was the case here. Harry wanted to know if there was a way that I could help him sell the opal. I told him that opal is my hobby, and I didn't really sell opal on YouTube or anywhere, but I would love to tell Angelo's story and show his spectacular opal parcel to my viewers, both of them. Angelo grew up in a small village in northern Greece where his family grew cotton and tobacco. Everything was fine. But then one day in the late 1960s, his brother-in-law showed up talking jive about how he made $600,000 in 2 years in the opal fields in Australia. So Angelo was an instant opalholic, an acute opalholic, and he pulled out his phone just to see where this Australia was. He looked at Google Maps and he saw that Australia was a long way away, 19 hours by plane, but he didn't have that kind of money, but he noticed it was only 100 pounds by boat, and it was only going to take 27 days. So Angelo and his wife Olga and their young son Harry set sail from Southampton in Britain, rounded the Cape of Good Hope, and although it was a long trip, the seas were relatively calm, but Olga still did a lot of talking to Ralph on the big phone, if you know what I mean. But despite everything, there was one bright spot. Angelo discovered bacon, something he'd never tasted in Greece. Things went pretty well for the remainder of the trip, and finally, after a long time, they arrived in Australia. I've never really been there, but I think that this is a photo of Australia. Although Angelo wanted to go immediately to Coober Pedy, he just didn't have the money, so he had to work as a sheep shearer for a year. Then finally, his dream is realized. He got to Coober Pedy, and he worked there for 4 years, coming back home occasionally to see his kids. But then they moved permanently to Coober Pedy with his family in 1973. And by that time, they could afford a color camera, and they were looking real good as a family. Harry was good enough to send me some mining photos. This is them in a tunnel under the ground with the digging machine. And here's the business end of the digging machine, and a relatively young or younger Angelo at the controls. Of course, Angelo expected to make the big bucks early, but it wasn't until 1996 that his ship came in, so to speak. This is one of the two specimens. This is bright, solid, light opal, skin-to-skin color, and just extraordinarily beautiful. It's 321 grams, almost 5 inches long and 1.5 inches thick. And rough opal is sold by the troy ounce, and this is over 10 ounces. Now on to the larger of the two specimens. This specimen is what we call dark base opal. The dark base and black opals are in the same basic category, and I had prepared a segment on explaining the differences. I'll do that in a later video. This specimen is 608 grams. That's over 19.5 troy ounces. It's a really beautiful specimen. I'd love to have it. I told Harry that my viewers like to see me cut opal, so he had some pieces of the original parcel and sent me 3 whole ounces of it. And this is where the fun begins, as you'll soon see. I would really appreciate it if everybody who watches this video, any place that you happen to see it, if you see a face in one of the stones, I'm not saying this is a face, but if you see a face, you need to comment about it and let me know. What's very, very important, if you see ALF, A-L-F, if you don't know who or what ALF is, you can look it up if you're too young. If you're old enough to know, well, God bless you. There's a real nice area on the surface. I'm not sure how thick it is, but it looks like we can get a small stone from that. It'll be a pretty small stone. Very interesting. Let me get, these are the two halves. This is the side that I was looking to cut. You can see that I pretty much stayed along the line through the potch. This is what we're dealing with. Isn't that impressive? Well, here it is from the front. I've ground it down a little bit. The back just has that thin layer of potch. I'm sorry I don't have my opal nail on. That's the real me right there. That'll make a nice little freeform, say, bezel mount pendant. Now I've got this, which has piqued my curiosity. It's piqued it to the maximum. I still need to go through a little potch. How beautiful is that? I've gotten down probably about as far as I want to go. There's a really nice sort of a chevron, not Chevy, but chevron, you know, like the gas station. I'm going to go and cut between, right in that potch area. So the goal was to cut along this potch bar between this bar and the bar that, let's see if I can flatten that little saw mark. It's unintentional. We have a lot of viewers who are far better cutters than I, and they've told me so. I don't claim to be the best. We've got color over the whole surface of this. It seems to be pretty omnidirectional. These are the 3 stones that I was able to get out of that one piece. I'm sorry I didn't get the weight of the entire piece. This is the second piece that I'm going to cut. There's a nice color bar there. Dark background. Just that thin color bar there. So now I've exposed the color bar. Pretty narrow here. Thins out there near the tip. I've pretty much got it marked. We're staying well above this because I don't know what's going to happen in there. So I'm going to make a cut under there so it's not too thick Now, a lot of black opal sellers will have a big, thick base to add to the carat weight because it costs so much. If you add an extra carat or two, you may make a couple of $1,000 or more. So finally, I've cut the first two pieces, and this is what we've got. About 37 carats total carat weight. They're polished and ready to go. So I'm left with 2.5 ounces of a 3-ounce parcel. I've got this stone, which has a really good blue-green color bar. The other one, the surface looks great. So I've decided to just polish it as is and not cut it at all. This is the last stone, and this one was really tough. Uh-oh. This material has color all throughout. A pretty nice stone for something I didn't think would be there. Now back to the third stone, which was really difficult for me. When I set opals, I used visor magnifiers, and this is it. Actually, I wear this pretty much all the time, and people kind of look at me funny, but not so funny. I mean, except for maybe this, which looks like E.T. E.T. phone home. But at the drive-thru, they just did hear them say once, "Who is that a-hole?" And they didn't use a-hole, but... Well, I figured a way to handle this stone. I put my carving boots on and got to work. I've been carving on this for a long time. I'm going to remove this and try to remove the last of that sand, and then we can reassess where we are. Okay, we're ready to cut. Ah! Ah! Oh, man. You really have to be careful with these saws. I've just been entirely too careless. Fake finger trick. So here's what's left of the pesky stone. We have some remnants of the carving, and we have a few nice crystal green blue cabochons. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with this. They look rather purple. Now for the last stone, number 4, we're going to polish it in a vibratory tumbler. There it is. Told you. That hamster food. Oh, look, there's some hamster poop in there. Doggone hamster. Smoochers, come on. Got your favorite food. Keep your teeth clean. Put this in the vibratory tumbler. With the hamster? Not with the hamster. There's the vibratory tumbler. Turn it on, and it vibrates. Now you've learned all about vibratory tumblers. Okay, I've put the hamster food in the vibratory tumbler. Throw that in, and I think that's it. We're going to let her rip. After spending a good long while in the tumbler with the abrasive hamster food, this is what we end up with. A polished stone that weighs almost an ounce. Thought I'd give you one more look at this parcel of opal. 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds of really fabulous opal. I'd love to have it myself. In fact, if you want to buy it, just send me a check. No questions asked. You can pick it up somewhere in Australia. I'd like to thank Harry and Angelo for taking the time to make the photos available to me and the bit of history there, and also for sending the 3-ounce parcel of opal for me to cut. I really enjoyed it, except for stone number 3. I thought that one would be the easiest and best, but you never know with opal. I'll see you next time.